Before we get into today's show, let me tell you about the latest deal from Mike Lindell, MyPillow. Once again, the big box stores have canceled their orders simply because they don't agree with Mike Lindell's politics. They don't like it because he supports President Trump. Well, he's going to pass that savings on to you. No more middleman. And boy, does he have some great deals on the Giza Dream sheets and the Percal bed sheets. Listen to this. Giza Dream queen size, normally $139.98. Your wholesale price, $69.99 when you use promo code Joey. King size, only $79.99. The Percal queen size, normally $89.98. Your wholesale price, $29.98 when you use promo code Joey. Just call 1-800-893-4059 or go to mypillow.com. Always use promo code Joey. Free shipping options available. This allotment's not going to last very long. When they're gone, they're gone. mypillow.com. Promo code Joey. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition Studios. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. Welcome in. We have a full update for you from the Middle East. The death toll of American troops is rising, according to the U.S. Department of War, saying that major combat operations will continue. Also, Secretary of State Marco Rubio warned that the hardest hits are yet to come for Iran, warning of an intensifying next phase of U.S. military operations and saying the campaign will continue until Tehran's missile and naval capabilities are completely destroyed. First Lady Melania Trump made history yesterday, becoming the first time a First Lady of any country presided over a UN Security Council meeting. Ms. Trump was pushing for peace through education amid the Iran firestorm. And South Carolina GOP Chairman Drew McKissick will join us today to talk about the war in Iran, President Trump's State of the Union last week, and the midterm elections.
I told you we'd be back.
And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free.
It's Joey Hudson.
I wanted to name it the Joey Hudson bill, but you know they don't allow you to put names on bills. But I wanted to call it the Joey Hudson bill because I know that one's been near and dear to you for a number of years.
That's how it's done. Let your voice be heard.
And the truth shall set you free.
Here's Joey Hudson.
So let's start with First Lady Melania Trump presiding over the United Nations Security Council meeting yesterday, declaring that the United States, quote, stands with all of the children throughout the world in a historic speech calling for peace through education amid the U.S. military and the Israeli military involvement in Iran.
Good afternoon. The 10,113 meeting of the Security Council is called to order. The provisional agenda for this meeting is maintenance of international peace and security, children, technology, and education in conflict. The agenda is adopted. I shall now make a statement in my capacity as First Lady of the United States. First, my heartfelt condolences to the families who have lost their heroes, who sacrificed their lives for freedom. Their bravery and dedication will always be remembered. I extend my earnest wishes for a swift and smooth recovery to all those who have been injured. You are in my thoughts and prayers during these challenging times. The U.S. stands with all of the children throughout the world. I hope soon peace will be yours.
Now, again, the speech marks the first time that a First Lady from any country and the first time a sitting U.S. First Lady has presided over the Security Council as its members consider education, technology, peace, and security throughout the world. The U.S. assumed the United Nations Security Council presidency yesterday, just days after the U.S. and Israel launched a massive joint military operation against Iran over the weekend, known as Operation Epic Fury. The attacks have left major leaders dead, including the Iranian Supreme Leader, the Ayatollah Khomeini. The joint military operation is expected to carry on for days as the U.S. military continues to target military and ballistic missiles sites that pose an imminent threat. The President and the Secretary of State and the Secretary of the War Department have all said it could last for weeks. Some have said up to 4 weeks. Others have said 4 to 6 weeks. We're not really sure how long. President Trump warned over the weekend against Iranian retaliation, saying that if Iran were to hit very hard, they would be met with a force that has never been seen before. Although I think they probably have already seen that force to a degree. But the First Lady's appearance at the UN was scheduled before Operation Epic Fury began. The First Lady said that she hopes that the U.S. stands with all of the children throughout the world, and saying that I hope soon peace will be yours. The UN Security Council consists of 15 member states with 5 permanent members: the United States, China, France, the Russian Federation, the United Kingdom, and 10 non-permanent members consist or make up this body with 2-year terms. The First Lady's speech focused on education, saying that it shapes the core of their country's belief system. A nation that makes learning sacred protects its books, its language, its science, and its mathematics. It protects its future, she said. This leads to something more powerful, she said, to greater understanding, moral reasoning, and tolerance of others, and ultimately peace. First Lady stressed that children raised in cultures rooted in intelligence develop confidence, innovate, build, compete, and maintain a deep value system. She said their knowledge fosters empathy for others, transcending geography, religion, race, gender, and even local norms. She said they become caring people. So the First Lady, again, this was planned long prior to the military operation that began over the weekend. Secretary of State Marco Rubio warned that the hardest hits are yet to come for Iran, signaling an intensifying next phase of U.S. military operations, and saying the campaign will continue until Tehran's missile and naval capabilities are completely destroyed. He was speaking at the Capitol. Mr. Rubio said Iran has already suffered significant damage, but indicated that more forceful strikes are ahead. He said they're suffering a tremendous amount of damage. He said, quote, "I'm not going to give away the details of our tactical efforts, but the hardest hits are yet to come from the U.S. military. The next phase will be even more punishing on Iran than it is right now." Now, I don't know if this was posturing, if this was a message to the Iranian leaders who are taking over. And I don't know if it was a way to say, hey, look, you've got a chance. If you'll step forward now and surrender, we will spare you. I don't know if that's even an option. You know, the president, we were told that Iran had reached out to President Trump, and we don't know if that conversation has taken place yet or not. The Secretary of State added, "I don't know how long it will take. We will do this as long as it takes to achieve those objectives, and we'll achieve those objectives." So I don't know if the plan is that we will just completely destroy their military capability and then talk, or if if the new leaders who have stepped in to take over, if they were to say, hey, look, we're ready to talk now, if that's even an option. U.S. Central Command, CENTCOM, said yesterday that 6 American service members have been killed in action amid this ongoing combat. In the statement, they said as of 4 p.m. Eastern, this would have been yesterday, 6 U.S. service members have been killed in action. U.S. forces recently recovered the remains of 2 previously unaccounted for service members from a facility that was struck during Iran's initial attacks in the region. The Post continued, major combat operations continue. The identities of the fallen are being withheld until 24 hours after next of kin is notified. Also, the Israel Defense Forces issued an urgent evacuation warning to residents in parts of Beirut's Daha neighborhood, saying that those near what it described as Hezbollah facilities must immediately leave the area. They posted a photo of this building. And, of course, the warning comes as Israeli strikes continue in Lebanon following the cross-border attacks by the Iranian-backed group. IDF spokesperson Colonel Adrei issued the urgent warning on X, along with a map showing the area of concern. You can clearly see which building they're talking about. So obviously they're saying, we are about to destroy this building. So if you're in that area, you're a civilian, get out. Leave immediately. The colonel said, to all those located in the buildings marked in red as shown on the map and in the adjacent buildings in the Harit area, you are in close proximity to Hezbollah facilities. For your safety and the safety of your families, you must evacuate these buildings immediately and remain at a distance of at least 300 meters. Now, that'd be a chilling message, wouldn't it? If you're in that area, maybe you work in that area, or maybe you live in that area, to know this is about to be destroyed. They're going to destroy this building. We got to get out of here. The U.S. Embassy in Jordan said that all personnel temporarily departed the embassy compound yesterday out of an abundance of caution following a security threat. The move comes, of course, as tensions across that entire region has just really hit a high, because you don't know what's going to happen next. You don't know which target Iran could potentially have in its crosshairs. You don't know which targets Israel and the U.S. has in their crosshairs. Security alerts, travel advisories have been issued throughout the Middle East. Look, I would not want to be anywhere in that area right now. And if you have any travel plan coming up, I would probably encourage you to rethink it, because I don't think this is the time to be traveling to the Middle East, and probably no time soon. Not in the foreseeable future. Maybe not even this year, as we don't know how long this is going to continue. In one report yesterday, it talked of the international airport at Dubai being hit by Iranian missiles, and that one area of that, one departure area, evidently was closed. So again, if you don't have to travel to the Middle East, and which I don't know why you would, unless you're military, stay at home until this all blows over. And again, that could be a lengthy period of time.
GOP shots like Ozempic are everywhere right now, but here's the question. What happens when you stop? If you don't fix the reason your body gained weight in the first place, the weight comes back. Joey Hudson here at PhD Weight Loss. They don't just treat the weight as the problem. They treat it as a symptom of metabolic dysfunction, hormone imbalance, or inflammation. If you don't correct those, no shot or hack will ever last. PhD looks at you holistically to improve your health span, your energy, and your longevity, because losing weight is one thing, but keeping it off for life is another. Right now, when you call PhD Weight Loss and mention Joey Hudson, you'll receive 2 free weeks in the program, and they'll cover the cost of your food. That's real results with zero guesswork. Again, mention Joey Hudson when you call 864-644-1900. That's 864-644-1900. Visit them online at myphdweightloss.com. Stop chasing weight. Start fixing what actually is causing it. Call today. Be sure and tell them Joey Hudson sent you. Get your 2 free weeks in the program. 864-644-1900.
I was talking with my mom, Nana Hudson, yesterday, and she was just asking me questions. Of course, she's 87 years old, and she's been watching the news coverage of this war in Iran. And her question to me was, why are we doing this? What's the importance of this? And I reminded her of some of the history there, and it made me think, well, maybe we should just do a quick summary of how we got to where we are now. Some of the polls that we have seen just in the last 24 hours show that a majority of Americans are opposed to us being involved in this. And a lot of them, particularly the younger people, just don't remember the history. So let's just kind of walk through that. Because when we talk about Iran today, the missile strikes, the proxy militias, threats against American officials, it can sound like something that just flared up in the last year or so. But it didn't. This story stretches back nearly a half a century. So let's go back to 1979. It was a special year. That was the year I'd graduated from Riverside High School. But I remember vividly because, I was involved or interested in politics then. I had been involved with a student UN at the time. I was involved in student government and a history buff. So 1979, you remember the radical students who stormed the U.S. Embassy in Tehran and took 52 Americans hostage and held them for 444 days.
That moment fundamentally changed the relationship between the United States and Iran. What had once been really an uneasy partnership anyway became open hostility. And it's been like that ever since, pretty much. Iran's new Islamic government began referring to America as the Great Satan. They hated us, still do. And that wasn't just rhetoric. It reflected their governing philosophy. Their whole government was built around this. And to understand how that happened, you have to go back even earlier, back into the 60s. And I don't remember this personally, but I've read about it. Iran was ruled by Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, a monarch aligned with the western part of the world. He pushed modernization reforms, expanding women's rights, secularizing elements of government, strengthening ties with Washington, D.C. That angered a very powerful cleric, Ruhollah Khomeini, who opposed those changes and condemned the Shah's alliance with the United States. He hated it. By early 1979, the Shah had fled. Khomeini returned from exile and established the Islamic Republic pretty much as we know it today. Later that year, you recall, President Jimmy Carter allowed the ailing Shah to enter the United States for medical treatment, and that decision became the trigger for the embassy takeover. They hated Jimmy Carter. The hostage crisis dominated American life for more than a year. And again, if you were alive then, you kind of remember this. We had a failed rescue mission, a miserably failed rescue system. U.S. service members were killed. Diplomatic ties were severed. And when the hostages were finally released on January 20th, 1981, remember this? The day Ronald Reagan was sworn in, it marked the beginning of a long, uneasy standoff. And look, Ronald Reagan made it clear that he would get those hostages back. And that was a very symbolic statement when they released them the day that he was sworn in. They basically had no respect for Jimmy Carter. But they didn't want to fool with Ronald Reagan because they knew that Ronald Reagan, like today, Donald Trump, would come after them. But that's just the beginning. In the early 80s, Iranian-backed Hezbollah militants began kidnapping Americans in Lebanon. One of them was CIA Station Chief William Buckley. He was tortured for months and later died in captivity. Then, in 1983, a bombing at the U.S. Embassy in Beirut killed 63 people, including 17 Americans. Later that same year, a suicide truck bomb destroyed the Marine barracks in Beirut, killing 241 U.S. service members. It remains the deadliest single day for the Marine Corps since World War II. So all this coming back to you if you were alive then, if you were old enough to remember this. Then in 1985, Hezbollah hijacked TWA Flight 847. U.S. Navy diver Robert Stetham was signaled out, beaten, and murdered. By 1988, as we're getting into the end of the 80s, tensions escalated in the Persian Gulf. After the USS Samuel Roberts struck an Iranian mine, President Reagan launched Operation Praying Mantis, the largest U.S. naval surface engagement since World War II. And you watch this, and that same pattern continued into the 1990s. In 1996, for example, 19 American service members were killed in the Khobar Towers bombing in Saudi Arabia. And after 9/11, investigations revealed a persistence of contacts between Iranian officials and al-Qaeda operatives. Now, Iran was not found to have directed the attacks. Later court rulings concluded it had provided indirect support to the terrorist networks, though, that were who were operating in this region. And in Iraq, after the United States went to war in 2003, Iranian-supplied weapons were linked to American casualties. In 2019, the Department of Defense, now the Department of War, estimated that more than 600 U.S. troop deaths in Iraq were tied directly to Iran or its proxies. There were other episodes. 2007, FBI agent Robert Levinson disappeared on Iranian's island. He was later declared dead after years in captivity. 2011, U.S. authorities disrupted a plot to assassinate Saudi ambassador at a restaurant in Washington, D.C. 2016, Iranian-linked hackers were indicted for targeting U.S. infrastructure, including access to a dam control system in New York. And in 2020, President Donald Trump ordered a strike that killed the IRGC commander Qasem Soleimani. Iran responded with missile strikes on U.S. bases in Iraq, injuring dozens of service members. So you see, I give you all this history, and this is just sort of a summary, so that you remember this has been brewing for 40 years. So it didn't just happen overnight. And here's a key point. This tension didn't start with Donald Trump either. It didn't begin with one policy decision. It didn't hinge on one speech or one election. That's the important thing. That's what you have to understand. For decades, the Iranian regime has relied on proxy groups, asymmetric warfare, hostage-taking, indirect confrontation rather than open military conflict with the United States, because they don't want that. It's kind of like throwing the rock and then hiding. But they have not wanted to do a stare down with the American military because they know they'll lose. At the same time, it's important, too, for us to distinguish between the Iranian government and the Iranian people. Many Iranians have protested their leadership at great personal risk. We've seen those protests heighten in these last few months. And we've seen families like the Levinsons continue seeking answers and accountability. So when you hear discussions today about sanctions, military strikes, nuclear negotiations, or regime changes, they're not happening in a vacuum. They're layered on top of 45 years of history. A history of embassy seizures, as I mentioned, barracks being bombed, the cyber attacks, assassination plots, and who knows what they may have been planning. Who knows things that maybe they were trying to do, and our intelligence community stopped them before they had a chance to do it. Because the Iranian leaders, not necessarily the Iranian people, but the Iranian leaders hate the breath that Americans breathe every day. They would love to destroy us. And given the chance, they will try to destroy us. So understanding this history doesn't require slogans. You just have to think about the context in which this is all happening right now in present day. And if we're going to have serious conversations about what comes next and what we should be doing and why we're assisting Israel and why we have troops and we're using our resources in that Middle Eastern area, then we have to think about the history that has taken place. I mean, how many times have you heard the term peace in the Middle East? We all pray for peace in the Middle East. Well, this may be the best time that we've seen in these past 45 years that we can really, truly achieve peace in the Middle East. We just have to stay the course and stand behind the president.
Your comments are welcome on the Furman Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY. That's 864-477-5639. Emails always welcome, joey@joeyhudson.com. Speaking of the Furman Ford text line, it's never been more important to support locally run businesses owned by people who actually live here in the upstate. Let me take a minute to talk with you about our friends at Furman Ford. If you're looking for a new vehicle, maybe a great pre-owned vehicle, one you can trust, or maybe you're looking to order that special vehicle. Either way, if you want a new one, a brand new one, or a pre-owned that you can trust, the folks at Furman Ford, they're there to help you. Their name is on the sign because their name is on the line, because every single transaction is important to them. Jim Furman, Matthew Furman. They do business the right way. When you stop by, when you give them a call, or maybe when you just send them a quick email, you're always going to have access to a member of the Furman Ford family. And by the way, they also offer great service, and you're not going to have to wait weeks and weeks to get it done. And you do not have had to purchase your vehicle at Furman Ford. Doesn't even have to be a Ford. They service all makes and models. Visit my friends at Furman Ford online at furmanford.com, furmanford.com. On our guest line today, Chairman of the South Carolina Republican Party, Drew McKissick. Welcome.
How are you?
I am wonderful. A lot going on, a lot of breaking news, of course. We learned this morning that a fourth U.S. service member has been killed in action as part of Operation Epic Fury. And the president said yesterday in one of his speeches that there will likely be more casualties. How does this war affect the midterm elections?
Well, I mean, look, we come back to the focus and what this is about and what he's focusing on, what we're trying to do. And at the end of the day, this is about the world's largest and longest ongoing sponsor of international terrorism. Those of us who are of a certain age, I'll put it politely, remember what actually happened back in 1979. We watched it all on live television. And what's happened in the world since then, what has consumed our foreign policy, consumed so much of, in a lot of ways, our treasure, our money, much less our time, and so forth, in terms of having to focus on that part of the world and its impact on our national interest. And now, finally, we are dealing with what I would say is the root cause, and that is the government of Iran. This is about that government. This is not about the Iranian people. This is about an opportunity to end that government and give the Iranian people the opportunity to pick themselves up and take, as Donald Trump put it, take your government back. Impact on the midterm elections this year. I mean, I don't see anything right off the top of my head in terms of, anything we can point to and say that this is going to hold one way or another. This is going to have a direct impact. Obviously Donald Trump's doing, what a president ought to do in terms of looking out for American interests. He's not doing anything, I don't think, that is out of character, the Republican conservatives, as we would look at things. We've got a lot of strange people in this country, and I use that word politely, who, are in the streets protesting, going after this regime, while you have Iranian women in the streets around the world celebrating that, at least the leadership of this regime have been forced to, as Rush Limbaugh used to say, assume room temperature.
Yeah.
And it's an interesting contrast. I mean, you have this woke crowd out in the street who, within a week, by the way, they've managed to trade full-size Venezuelan and Palestinian flags for full-size Iranian flags. I mean, did they go to Protesters or Us and pick out that nation's flag for Protest of the Week or whatever? I'm always curious as to how they all managed to have just a mass of full-size flags of that particular country. But they made it out in the streets of New York and Raleigh and other places where I've seen to, let everybody know just how incredibly stupid they are. Yeah. And, I think that's how they look. But we'll see how it impacts things going forward. If we stay on target and on mission, don't get bogged down, but focus on the objective at hand and then let the Iranian people take things from there, so to speak. I think we're looking at a good impact on the elections, quite frankly.
Yeah. With the war starting over the weekend, it seems like old news, but you and I haven't had a chance to talk since the State of the Union last week. So let's talk about some of the highlights from your perspective of the State of the Union.
Well, we had, I thought, was something that was part State of the Union and part Trump rally. I mean, it was versus previous State of the Union speeches, this one was much more so. I think he did, first off, what he needed to do in terms of the economic message, get that to the front of the speech. Because, obviously people on the East Coast will be going to bed soon, so we don't want them tuning out. Focus on what he's been able to accomplish, what they're doing now, what he wants to do, how that's directly relevant to people's lives who are listening. The economic message is going to be the ball game, essentially, at least 75, 80% of it in terms of midterm elections. And it always is. And so he got that out up front. He essentially, I would say, pantsed the opposition by giving them an opportunity to show everybody just exactly what they were on national television, and they never missed an opportunity to do that when they had the cameras on them. He sprung the trap on them by, first off, running down the list of, some of the things that he's done that he knows that they hate, and then gets to, and hey, if you believe that our nation's first objective is to defend the American people, and as opposed to illegal immigrants, stand up. And of course, they sat on their hands. And you're going to see that video from here until Election Day.
Yeah.
And they walk right into it.
Yeah.
It was I think probably one of the best speeches he's given in terms of just the weaving of his objectives, what he's done, bringing real American stories into it, and again, giving the opposition a chance to just, as Grandma would say, show their fanning, and they did.
And they did. I don't know if they realized at that point in time when he asked them to stand to support Americans. Surely they had to understand what was happening, but maybe not. I don't know. Drew McKissick is my guest today. By the way, speaking of Democrats and Congress, did you happen to see where Virginia's new governor, who previously had supported efforts to stop gerrymandering, has now announced support of a Democrat plan to redraw their congressional districts in a plan that, according to reports from the Democrats in Virginia, would give them 10 of their 11 seats. But she's opposed to gerrymandering.
Imagine that, being hypocritical right after they get elected.
Yeah.
This is, the same Democrat who tried to run as a moderate in this election in the state of Virginia. And no sooner does she get inaugurated now, she has put forward an executive order preventing law enforcement in the state of Virginia from participating or cooperating with ICE in any way when it comes to enforcing our immigration laws.
Yeah.
So that right off the bat tells you pretty much everything you need to know about where she's coming from.
Yeah, what a change in the state capital of Virginia for sure. But presently, exactly. Democrats have 6 of the congressional seats, Republicans 5. But if her plan goes through, that's a pretty drastic change, and that's being pretty creative with drawing those maps.
Well, and it would be a big change, but there still is a hitch in the giddy up, so to speak, from the judiciary side of things, because they, in their Constitution. They can't pull this off without putting at least 90 days between when such a law is enacted and when it is put to the people for a vote.
Yeah.
And when you take into account early voting, which starts basically a month before they hold elections in Virginia, then you're essentially breaking that constitutional provision by, I want to say it's close to 40 days or something like that.
Yeah.
And this is going to be litigated from here to Sunday, I'm sure.
Sure, yeah. Drew McKissick, chairman of the South Carolina Republican Party, always a pleasure. Have a good one.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Now, you too.
That's it for today's edition of Just the Truth. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss Studios. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. If you haven't joined my mailing list yet, visit my website, joeyhudson.com. Click on the Connect with Joey button so that you can receive our emails and the most up-to-date news. Also, join me on my YouTube channel. Be sure and like, comment, and subscribe. Just search for Joey Hudson. As always, thanks for spending a few minutes of your day with me. Do me a favor and forward this episode to a few friends. Just click on the share button and send to your contacts. We need to build an army of conservatives to win our country back, and we can do that by continuing to share the truth with our friends and family. Keep those comments coming via the Furman Ford text line 864-477-JOEY. Email to joey@joeyhudson.com, and I love your messages on the MyPillow message line. Again, that's 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Be sure and take advantage of the MyPillow special, just $14.88 on the standard MyPillows when you use promo code Joey. Order online at mypillow.com or call 800-893-4053. We're back again tomorrow and hope you'll plan to join us. Until then, remember, God's got this. He's still in control.